This brings us to some of the lawfare decisions coming out of the Illinois supermarket of issues. And I didn't just want to let you guys hear my take on why I think a lot of these new injunctions and you can't deploy the National Guard and you can't do this. I didn't want you to just hear that from me. So we got one of the best immigration lawyers in the country, Deron Smallcomb. I do not know how producer Lou actually got him to give us a little bit of explanation here. But we recorded this yesterday, and given some of the legal updates today, it's probably one of the best timed interviews we've ever run. Here you go. Well, the federal judge rulings are coming out quicker than Waffle House orders. The latest that the ICE agents making arrests in Chicago need to wear body cameras. I feel like I've heard this one before. To talk about these and other nonsensities, we got to go to the mastermind of immigration and other legal matters, Deron Smallcomb. Good to have you, sir.
Nice to see you, Tony. Thanks for having me.
So I know that we could talk about some of the goofy, you can't deploy the National Guard here, you can't deploy federal agents here kind of things. Right at the top of your mind, prior orders on law enforcement to wear body cameras, they usually come from the left, and they don't usually end up telling the stories that are expected once that footage is released.
Yeah, that's kind of been a big backfire over time for a lot of people that wanted to show police brutality. It's shown quite the opposite, actually. And ordering ICE to wear body cameras, too, I'm not really sure where the jurisdiction is there to force that, quite frankly.
Well, when has jurisdiction stopped federal judges like these? You have individuals in the, maybe not the federal judge level, but at the Cook County level in Chicago, saying that now ICE agents are not allowed to make arrests inside, they're not allowed to make civil arrests inside certain city properties. I wasn't aware that city judges or county level judges had the authority to restrict federal law enforcement from upholding federal law.
No, they don't. I mean, that'll play out in the courts, and it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But ultimately, this is a federal operation with ICE. And so a local magistrate saying you can or cannot do this on some sort of state property is probably, it's not going to hold, more than likely. And in fact, they may just disregard it.
So I don't mean to throw you in the side of strategizing for those who are in opposition to legal measures, in opposition to law enforcement upholding the law. If you were setting up a campaign in which you wanted to regain public trust on the left side of the aisle, in this case, regarding immigration law, how would you do so without doing whatever this elementary school jury show is doing?
So I do the exact opposite of what they're doing, and it would be the fair thing to do, which is number one, in the idea of what they call a sanctuary city, which is anything but. It may be a sanctuary for criminals, but not for those that live there. And so if they said, okay, look, if somebody gets arrested that doesn't have status, we're going to turn them over to ICE. That's going to be our policy going forward. That would be the best thing for all the other immigrants that are involved, because right now the fallout from these raids, look, ICE isn't trying to get abuela and kids and anybody else that hasn't broken the law. That's not on their priority list. But when you release a criminal and he goes back home and is in an apartment with 3 or 4 other people that are undocumented, the ICE has to go in there, and the other people are going to get caught up in it too, even though that wasn't their intent in the first place. They just want the criminal. And so that would be a really big start, is to get the criminals off the streets and make their job a little bit easier. And then we could come up with a little bit more comprehensive policy of how to work on the prioritization of other people that are here illegally.
And that's one of the things that I've been most interested in seeing, is some kind of a moderate approach coming out to not get essentially slaughtered in the midterms, which appears to be ever so more the case as we approach next year. Which brings me to how I know you've seen some more moderate suggestions from John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. Cortez Masto in Nevada tries to be avoiding the question whenever she has the opportunity. You have some representatives in the House that are trying to be a little careful here. When are we going to see a governor, I might ask, a Josh Shapiro, maybe a Jared Polis, finally admit that some kind of immigration measures that you've described, maybe handing over the criminals directly from perhaps state law enforcement institutions to the federal government? When are we going to see those calls, or are we going to see that from a gubernatorial? Pritzker and Newsom obviously are the opposite end of that.
Yeah, you're not going to see it from a Newsom or somebody where, look, I mean, we have a census coming up. It may happen sooner rather than later. And the numbers, the raw numbers determine the amount of congressional seats and the amount of electoral votes. So you have a big disincentive on the major population states like California, Illinois, New York from doing anything that would affect that because they don't want to lose power. It's really a simple human trait, or political trait. You may see some more moderate governors that are coming up for re-election in states that are split, start shifting in that direction and call for some common sense, middle ground.
Maybe a Kentucky situation, a Bashir kind of a movement.
You might see something like that. I mean, there are moderates out there. And I do think that right now, because of the political shifts that are happening, particularly over the last month or so since we lost Charlie Kirk, you have a lot of the middle and even middle left that are saying, hey, I might identify with the other party a little bit more. And I do see that shift happening. It's kind of the zeitgeist, if you will, as far as the main population goes. And you're going to see politicians go with where the wind is blowing. That's what they do.
We would hope. So far with the shutdown nonsense continuing, there's a kind of awkward stubbornness that is what we talked about with Rob Bluey. It's infected the party on the inside, that there's, discontent and all of that. But I want to get one more legal take here before we have to let you go. This is on the judicial ruling from California that the Trump administration can't fire or lay off, reduction in force, federal employees right now because it's political. That was the argument, that Trump or Russ Vought had said the word Democrats or said left-leaning agencies or sections of departments, and so therefore they can't lay them off. Is there any legal basis for that that's, outside of imagination?
Well, I think for a district federal judge, they're really going against the Supreme Court precedents, which says they can't make nationwide rulings. They can only rule.
Like a couple of weeks ago. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
No, it's okay. I mean, the federal district judges should not be overstepping their bound. They should be, if there's a question of law and affecting a certain party, they should rule on the affected party. So if a person says, I got laid off for political reasons, I shouldn't be, the judge can say, okay, you shouldn't be, but he can't rule or she can't rule on the other class members, is really what the Supreme Court ruling says.
That's right. Excellent point. Deron Smallcomb, really appreciate you. We'll have you back real soon because the legal analysis, hot and ready, fresh like Little Caesars, we know you deliver.
Nice to see you, Tony.